Right, hello and welcome to Try 2. My apologies for my last aborted attempt to do this video because my computer decided to do a OneDrive upload and didn't notify me by a pop-up, so when I'd started my live stream, it grabbed all the kilobytes per second, the frame rate, to do the upload, so my signal collapsed. So, let us try again. You know, Windows updates are always very nice because every time they happen, it cocks everything up. Every single time. Last time, Windows didn't update, my streaming system would not allow me to use thumbnails. This time, it's decided to, let's not get into it. Okay, technology is great when it works. Technology can also be a pain in the... Right, anyway. Let us crack back on with the video on the great Sugar Ray Robinson. So let us start again with his main opponents. So Sugar Ray Robinson, okay, 3 times defeated Hall of Famer Sammy Angut. He twice defeated former champion and tough contender Marty Servo, before also holding wins over the rough and tumble Fritzy Zivic, 2 wins in 2 fights. Next up, Ray Robinson 6 times fights the Raging Bull Jake LaMotta, of course losing his first fight of his career to Jake LaMotta, scoring 5 wins and 1 loss from that 6-fight series. And Sugar Ray Robinson also defeats the past great welterweight before him, Henry Armstrong, in a singular fight. Next up, the great Cuban welterweight champion Kid Gavilan, twice is defeated by Sugar Ray Robinson from 2 fights. And Robinson fights Carl Bobo Olsen 4 times, Robinson winning all 4 fights. Next up is Randy Turpin. Okay, Robinson lost one of the greatest upsets to him, but then avenged it with that fantastic finish when he was caught, and again in a bit of a sticky situation, showing his great finishing skills. Robinson scoring 1 win and 1 loss from those 2 fights against Randy Turpin. He then knocks out Rocky Graziano brutally in the 3rd round with that ferocious right hand in a singular fight. And then he loses challenging light heavyweight champion Joey Maxim. Next up is underrated former middleweight champion Gene Fulmer. Robinson fights him on 4 occasions, scoring 1 win with 2 losses and 1 draw. And he twice fights the tough former welterweight middleweight champion Carmen Basilio in 2 very, very tough fights, grueling fights. Robinson scoring 1 win and 1 loss. Next up, Paul Pender, okay, who defeated Robinson both occasions, removing his 5th middleweight title from him and stopping him winning his 6th. And then he twice fought former champion Denny Moyer, scoring 1 win and 1 loss. Robinson closed out this first slide of main opponents, losing to UK former middleweight champion Terry Downs. So that is slide 1 of many. Okay, let us go to slide 2. And Robinson is still fighting top level guys. So he fights and beats Ralph Dupas, okay, the former world champion, in a singular fight. He then loses to Hall of Famer former middleweight champion Joey Giardello before gaining 2 wins over the very underrated contender California Jackie Wilson. Next up is George Sugar Costner. Robinson defeats him 2 times from 2 fights. And Robinson also held a win in a singular fight over the very tough and capable Georgie Abrams. Next up, the tragic fight with Jimmy Doyle that Sugar Ray Robinson won, and then he also scored a win over the very capable, excellent contender Bobby Dykes. Now, Rocky Castellani is next. Top 10 former contender Rocky Castellani is also defeated by Sugar Ray Robinson in a singular fight, and then he loses, of course, later in his career to tough middleweight contender Joey Archer. Then come a run of singular wins over contenders. The first is over the well-travelled Joe Ganuli. He then also defeats top 10 rated Pete Lello, top 10 rated Carl Gugino, top 10 rated Maxi Shapiro, and top 10 rated Maxi Berger, or Berger as some people call him. Finally, to close out this second slide of main opponents for Ray Robinson, he twice fights former top 10 contender Norman Rubio, Sugar Ray Robinson winning both fights. So there is slide 2 of Sugar Ray Robinson. When we go to slide 3, Sugar Ray Robinson defeats contender Tony Matisse in a singular fight, before then also having 4 wins from 4 fights against well-travelled contender Izzy Genazzo. Next up is top 10 rated Vic Delicurti. Robinson fights him on 3 occasions, winning all 3 fights. He then scores singular wins over contenders Ralph Zanelli and Sheikh Rangel. Next up is Tommy Bell. Now, of course, in one of these fights, Robinson captured his undisputed welterweight title against Tommy Bell in December 1946, of course. Robinson defeats Tommy Bell 2 times from 2 fights. He then twice fights the tough Puerto Rican contender and very good fighter himself, Jose Becerra, scoring 1 win and 1 draw from those 2 fights. Robinson then defeats contender Jimmy McDaniels before twice defeating contender Cecil Hudson. Next up is Bernard Dukeson, okay, at the start of a run of tough contenders. Bernard Dukeson, very good contender himself. Robinson defeats him in a singular fight. He also defeats former top 10 rated and former pound for pound rated fighter, very good fighter Earl Turner, before beating the tough middleweight contender Steve Berlois, also in a singular fight. And then, okay, he fights a Black Murderers Row fighter, Aaron Wade. Now, in circumstances that weren't ideal for Aaron Wade, I won't go into it, but if you look at Robinson's career and look at Wade's career, he'd had inactivity and everything before this fight. Robinson defeats Aaron Wade in a singular fight, and then he also defeats top 10 contender Ray Barnes. Next up is tough contender Robert Villamain. Robinson fights him on 2 occasions, scoring wins in both fights. So there's slide 3 of main opponents for Sugar Ray Robinson. When we go to slide 4 of his main opponents, Sugar Ray Robinson defeats tough contender Charlie Fasari, of course, in his last welterweight title defence. And people say, oh, we'd no footage of Sugar Ray Robinson at welterweight. Well, you've obviously not seen on YouTube where he fights Charlie Fasari. That was his last welterweight title defence. There is other welterweight footage of Ray Robinson as well. We don't have much, but we do have some. But some people make out we have none, and that is not true. So next up is Hans Stretz. Okay, Robinson defeated him in 1 fight. He also defeated contenders Holly Mims and Cyril Delanoy, also in singular fights. Next up, the tough contender who you could beat, and he could also beat top level fighters. Okay, Ralph Jones. Robinson lost to him. He also lost a singular fight to Mick Lee before twice losing later in his career, of course, to Stan Harrington. Next up is Ferd Hernandez. Robinson also lost to him, but then he went on a run of singular wins, the first over Ruben Shank. He then also defeated Frankie Wallace, Dave Clark. He also scored in a singular win, a win over tough and hard puncher Artie Levine, before then gaining a singular win over the world-travelled, huge career, okay, for all kinds of people. Young Gene Buffalo, very experienced fighter. Robinson also defeated him. He twice defeated former challenger Jimmy Teague on 2 occasions earlier in Robinson's career, and then he also beat the European fighter Gene Stock. So that is slide 4 of main opponents for Sugar Ray Robinson. So let's go to his 5th and final slide now. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson defeats Luke Van Dam, okay, in a singular fight, before 3 times from 3 fights defeating Jean Walzak. He then, in singular fights, defeats some very good fighters, some experienced fighters, the first being Al Netlo. He then also defeats contender Freddie Cabral, before then beating Joe Cercio in a singular fight. He then, in singular fights, also beats Jan de Bruin and Garth Panther. So, main opponents listed there, that is 103 fights. Sugar Ray Robinson scores 84 wins, 17 losses and 2 draws. And interestingly, Sugar Ray Robinson is one of the first, there have been a few, but he's one of the first that has full rating information, so everything is filled on the slides. So, let us go to the first of his stat slides, and he has some rather silly numbers in some. So KOs and rounds boxed. Sugar Ray Robinson scored 108 knockouts. He scored a massive total of 57 knockouts in 3 rounds or less. Robinson also scored 20 first round wins. Now against champions, okay, Robinson scored 8 KOs. He scored 9 KOs against Hall of Fame fighters and 11 KOs against pound for pound fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson, okay, with full rating information for this video, scored 36 knockouts against rated fighters alone. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson, in terms of rounds boxed, obviously a huge career. He fought a total of 1,387 rounds. He fought a total of 261 title fight rounds. And like I've said, he has one of the toughest title fight records you can find, because when you list all his title fights and list the champions, Hall of Famers and pound for pounders who he fought in those fights, I mean, it is a staggering list, really. So Robinson also fought massive totals of 404 rounds against champions. He fought 314 rounds against Hall of Famers, and he fought 405 rounds against pound for pound fighters. Now, rounds against rated opponents who many fighters have featuring in the earlier period don't have. Robinson has massive totals of 769 rounds fought against top 10 fighters. Robinson also fought a huge total of 596 rounds against top 3 rated fighters, and Sugar Ray Robinson fought 279 rounds against ring champions. That is the equivalency of more than 20 12-round fights just against ring champions alone. But those rounds against top 10 pale in comparison. Okay, when we get to Maxi Rosenblum, there you will see insane figures from an altered dimension when we get to those on Rosenblum. But Robinson scores very highly in many statistics, so let us go to his slide against champions. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson had a massive record against champions, 37 fights in total. Robinson scored 25 wins with 11 losses and 1 draw, and he defeated 13 individual champions. They were Sammy Angot, Marty Servo, Fritzy Zivic, Jake LaMotta, Henry Armstrong, Kid Gavilan, Carl Bobo Olsen, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, Gene Fulmer, Carmen Basilio, Denny Moyer, and Ralph Dupas. Now, as I was pointing out in my last video and the knockouts against champions, people say, well, Floyd Mayweather beat more champions than that. So let us factor how many undisputed champions has Floyd Mayweather beaten compared to how many Ray Robinson's beaten. And then Floyd Mayweather's goes to a big fat 0, okay, and Robinson has a pile. So it's all how you look at the figures in what they matter. Now, hello Martin. My last live collapsed because my Windows desktop update that I did yesterday, it had flagged all my files up for backing to OneDrive, and I said no, I don't want to do it. So when I started my live stream earlier, the computer on its own decided to start uploading them all. Therefore, the entire signal strength was used to do that massive OneDrive update. So I'm redoing it now after that's finished, and it's perfectly fine. But I was talking before for 16 minutes and I didn't realise the live had cut off. It had cut the live off by itself when signal collapsed after 10 minutes. So I was here like a madman talking to myself. But anyway, never mind. So Sugar Ray Robinson scored knockout or stoppage over 6 of those 13 champions, that being Fritzy Zivic, Carl Bobo Olsen, Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, and Gene Fulmer. So, on to the Hall of Fame category for Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, Robinson had 29 fights against Hall of Fame fighters with a record of 21 wins and 7 losses and 1 draw. As had Charles, of course, 1 win below him against Hall of Famers. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson, beat 10 individual Hall of Fame fighters. They were Sammy Angot, Fritzy Zivic, Jake LaMotta, Henry Armstrong, Kid Gavilan, Carl Bobo Olsen, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, Gene Fulmer, and Carmen Basilio. And like with the champions from the Hall of Famers beaten, Sugar Ray Robinson scored knockout or stoppage over 6 of them, them being Fritzy Zivic, Carl Bobo Olsen, Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, and Gene Fulmer. And this is how it'll be in future, on all the slides. Some slides now have zeros due to pre-rating era, but when I've passed that period, every video will have full information on rated opponents, rounds boxed against rated opponents, and all the other stats. So yeah, that time will come. So there's his slide against Hall of Fame fighters. Now on to pound for pound fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson has a massive total of 39 fights against pound for pound fighters. Now Sugar Ray Robinson has scored 28 wins with 10 losses and 1 draw, and he's beaten a massive 15 individual pound for pound rated fighters. They were Sammy Angot, Fritzy Zivic, Jake LaMotta, California Jackie Wilson, Henry Armstrong, George Costner, Georgia Abrams, Jimmy Doyle, Kid Gavilan, Carl Bobo Olsen, Bobby Dykes, Randy Turpin, Rocky Castellani, Gene Fulmer, and Carmen Basilio. 28 wins against pound for pounders alone. Now, from those 15 pound for pound fighters Ray Robinson defeated individually, he had many fights against those men. Like he had 2 against California Jackie Wilson, he had 6 against LaMotta, he had 3 against Angot, Go, 2 against Sivic, 4 against Bobo Olsen. So he had a lot of fights against some of them men. But from them 15 individual pound-for-pounders beaten, he has knocked out or stopped, scored knockout or stoppage wins over 9 of them. They were Fritz Sivic, George Costner, California Jackie Wilson, Carl Bobo Olsen, Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Gene Fulmer, Jimmy Doyle, and Rocky Castellani. So there's them 3 massive slides on Ray Robinson's Champions Hall of Famous pound-for-pounders. Now to a slide that is generally zeros on most, but not on this one. Sugar Ray Robinson has a total of 88 fights against top 10 fighters with a record of 69 wins, 17 losses and 2 draws. Now against top 3 rated fighters, Ray Robinson has a total of 58 fights, including 44 wins, 13 losses and 1 draw. And Ray Robinson has a massive total when you look at my historic database, what no one can except me of course. He has a massive total of fights against ring champions, 26 in total, including 19 wins, 7 losses, no draws. Now with full rating information, Sugar Ray Robinson held wins over, he fought some of them more than once of course, many of them more than once, but he beat 47 individual rated fighters, and he scored knockouts over a staggering 31 individual rated fighters from that 47. So huge figures there for Sugar Ray Robinson. So when we go on to the slide of title fight numbers, Ray Robinson has one of the toughest title fight records you can find. Like I always say, and I ask people to do it, list his 22 title fight opponents, then write champion or Hall of Famer for who that qualifies to, who were a champion and who's in the Hall now, and write that next to it, and you have a staggering list during his title record. Way tougher title run than a Sven Otka or a Dariusz Michalczewski or a Joe Calzaghe, for example, in terms of the stature of the opponents he more often than not fought in his title fights. So Robinson's 22 title fight record is broken down into 14 wins, 7 losses and 1 draw. Sugar Ray Robinson made 8 title defences and he scored 8 title fight knockouts. Now wins against top 10 fighters in world title fights. From those 14 world title fight wins, Robinson scored 13 wins against top 10 fighters and a staggering 13 wins against top 3 fighters. So from them 14 title fight wins, 13 of those guys were top 3 rated in their career. That's a staggeringly high number. Now Robinson also scored 7 wins against ring champions in title fights. And just to highlight my point there, from his 14 title fight wins, no counting the losses, to Gene Fulmer and others that count on his defeats. But just from his 14 title fight wins, 9 of those wins were against champions, 9 of those wins were against Hall of Famers, and 9 of those wins were against pound-for-pound fighters. So certainly, not only it's in the fact he's a 2-weight champion, a 6-time lineal undisputed champion, but the level of his opposition in his title record as well, to me, enhances his title record over someone like Sven Otka, etc., fighters like that, or God forbid an Artur Grigorian at lightweight who made piles of defences, but virtually fought no one in them. No one of note, I'll say. He did fight people, but just not very highly rated people. So there's Sugar Ray Robinson's title fight stats there. So on to final slide, titles 1. Sugar Ray Robinson, of course, captured the world welterweight title, and he was a 5-time world middleweight title holder. He was also lineal champion, at welterweight, and 5-time middleweight lineal champion, and he was undisputed welterweight champion and 5-time undisputed middleweight champion. So there ends the staggering video on Sugar Ray Robinson. He scored some incredible numbers. Other fighters have scored more incredible numbers here or there, but when you look at the great Sugar Ray Robinson, and you just have to, in boxing terms, you just have to call him the great Sugar Ray Robinson, because it's not only his resume that is great, it's not only the overall quality of his opposition that's great, his title record is also great, his title accomplishments are also great. There are some weak points in there, but there are very few weak points compared to the strengths. Hence why he's so highly regarded. He's got the resume, he's got the title record, he's got the accomplishments, he's got everything in there. So I wanted to do one of the all-time greats from the full rating era, so all the slides are filled with information. There is Sugar Ray Robinson. He'll take pride of place for the great fighter he was on my middleweight playlist. And coming forward over coming days, there's going to be videos on Jack McCarran, Leo Florian Hook, Jimmy Gardner and others. So the videos will continue, but for now, There's the great Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm the boxing librarian. I'm out for now.